Hey, what's up, everybody? Sorry to keep you guys waiting. You guys always know I run a few minutes behind. That's how I operate. Um, but with me today, I have, well, actually this evening would be Cheryln Cadle. How you doing?
Hi, how are you, Mekcee?
I'm good. I'm
Hi,
good.
everyone.
I've seen you've been busy.
We're
You've been a
having
busy,
a
busy
little,
person.
yeah, just a little bit these days. Yeah,
Busy.
I
Busy.
need to turn up my volume. Can you hear me okay? I'm
I can hear you okay.
okay. Yeah, it's been a little hectic this week, to say the least.
Yeah, you've been especially with everything that's going around. Um, with everything. And I'll say this before we even start, guys. Guys, here on my channel is a no drama zone. So you guys can have opinions as long as you're respectful about it. However, if you are disrespectful, you'll probably be warned once, and then if you do it again, you'll get the boot. So that being said, like I said, I don't like drama on my channel. We're here to respect each other's opinions. Everybody has opinions. Everybody is entitled to their opinions, but it is how we come off and how we portray them and how we talk to people. That's the difference. If we're not being respectful in our opinions, then it becomes a difference. It's not just an opinion, it's you're being rude to somebody. So please don't do that. I ask you not to do that. So thank you, everybody, for joining us here. Super excited to have you on, Cheryln. I've seen you've been so busy recently, and I know obviously it has to do with Mr. Chris Watts himself. That 35C that was so infamous, and we've talked about a million different times. And so, if you want to, I mean, you could go into detail to break down, what kind of happened with that. But I also want to touch on a lot of different topics. One of them being your book. I was reading on my Fire tablet. I've been reading your book, which, by the way, I actually enjoy. And I'll give you my honest opinion too. If I think I'm like, it's not for me, I would be polite about it. I'd be like, it's not for me. It might be for some other reasons, but I actually enjoy it. There's several different points that you bring up. One that I want to point out is that you make sure that on a consistent basis that you're like, look, guys, this is coming directly from the horse's mouth. This is coming directly from Chris Watts himself. Regardless of what your opinion is of me, I'm just trying to get to the truth. I'm trying to get to the bottom of it. And I'm solely giving you what is being given to me to translate to you guys. That is the closest that you can absolutely get to the truth. And obviously, we know Chris has been up and down with his truths, and he's been very finicky in it, and it's almost like the boy who cried wolf. So we take it with a grain of salt. However, it's coming directly from him. So when he's saying this to you, and he's doing these letters to you, and he's doing these conversations with you, I bet it's a surreal feeling to actually be speaking with him. It's not like he's a celebrity, so no, we don't make Chris like he's a celebrity.
No.
But in the true crime world, what interests me so much is the psych part of it, the psyche, the psychology portion of what was going through Chris's mind when all of this happened. So he kind of gives the accounts of, in his version of what happened. And there's a lot of times that he says, I don't remember. It comes in flashes in and out of what happened. And as we know, we don't give it an excuse, but people who are demonically possessed and have had demons overcome them, they honestly sometimes they don't remember the accounts of what had happened. It comes in flashes because it's like they've been overtaken. And so I thought that was very interesting when I was reading these different accounts of it too. And one of the things that I like at the beginning of the book is how you approached Chris Watts too. You approached him in a very respectable manner. You're like, look, I'm going to tell you that first off, I don't agree with the stuff that you did. But I do, however, feel like it was my calling to come to you and, get your version of what has happened, because you were basically saying to him, like, if God forgives and things like that, it would have to be an account of you too. So where are you at right now, Chris Watts? Where are you in your journey with that? Have you reached that? Essentially, have you reached that forgiveness? Have you reached peace with God? What are the steps that you've taken? You kind of approach him, you're like, look, I want you to share your story, and then I'll give you the opportunity to tell your journey with you finding God at this moment.
Right, right.
And so that was a very, very
Because it's all
interesting
true.
approach.
I mean,
Yeah.
thank
And
you.
it is. And people, I know people will argue, and people want to have the villain. People want to have the villain, and they want to be mad at it. They want to hate him. They want to, be so. When I wrote the Daddy Don't song, I don't know if you heard the Daddy Don't song,
I
Cheryln,
did. I
but
did.
I was writing it in the account of how I feel Shanann, Bella, Cece, and Nico. I felt like they didn't have anybody to voice up. Like it's like
Right,
almost like in a sense, like, how could you do this to us? How could you
right.
do this to us? You could have walked away. You could have chose a different path. How could you do it to us? And so I tried to put myself in their shoes when I wrote that song.
You were their voice. It was very good.
Well, thank you. And I tried to be that voice. But I'm also a huge advocate for, if you've sinned and you've done things in your life, I am a firm believer that God forgives any and all sins. Any and all sins. That would be up to and including what Chris Watts has done.
That doesn't mean there's no consequences. It just means
It doesn't mean there's consequences, because God comes out and he has consequences. You've done things, you have consequences for your actions. One of the consequences for his actions is he's where he's supposed to be at this moment. He's had decisions and choices that he made into doing that.
Yes.
But God, we're kind of like all over. But that's what I was saying. I want to talk about your book. I want to talk about, what's going on recently with you and Chris, because I know there's conversations and there's different things that are going on. I know you have the direct connects with them. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about, too, the surreal feeling that you had originally when you came to Chris, when you did that and he wrote you back. How was that feeling for you? Like when you received that letter back from Chris Watts, what was the state of what was that surreal feeling that you had? Was it kind of like oh my gosh moment, like he actually wrote me?
Yeah, I mean, my husband, I had told him that we were standing in front of the TV getting ready for work the morning that Christopher was on the front porch, and what he was saying. And I told my husband, I said, he's guilty. Oh my goodness, you can see it on him. He's guilty. And I said, I'm going to get to the bottom of his story. I feel like I should. And that was that quick that I felt that way. And I put in the book, I think that I felt called, and I did. I felt called to write this book. So I knew right away that he had to do it. So my husband just kind of, shrugged it off. No big deal. And then I told him a few days later, I wrote that guy. It was a couple months later, actually. I told my husband I wrote that guy, that Christopher Watts, and he was like, you didn't tell me you wrote him. And I'm like, I told you I was going to. And so then when the letter came in, my husband was more excited than me, I think. He just couldn't believe that Christopher had wrote me back. So we read the letter together. And one of the very first things that Christopher said is, like his second or third sentence, I think, he said, he talked to the FBI because he wanted to clear Shanann's name. He wanted people to know that she did not kill the girls. So, that was kind of surreal for me. I knew right then we had conversation between us. If he was willing to tell the truth and to confess his sins, as he said in the letter, I knew that God can even use him again if Christopher will follow the path of forgiveness and doing what he's supposed to do. So I knew we had a story there to get. And wow, yeah. I had no idea the story that we had.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was one of obviously the biggest things, Netflix came in and kind of completely just blew it up once Netflix kind of released that, what they had done. But with that too, my question to you is too, do you consider Chris Watts one of your friends? Do you consider him to be a friend?
No. No, I don't.
I was always curious about it. I was like, I wonder if you like consider him like a friend or things, because to me it would be hard. I'm big on forgiveness because, like I said, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. Some are in our world would be a lot more. Obviously, this would be like a very, very, very tragic and big mistake.
Right.
But and you know, you can't go back from that. When you murder somebody, you can't go back.
That's right.
There's no turning back. So, you know, when you do something in real life and in regular life, and you hurt somebody or you've offended somebody or you've done something, you can at least reach out and say, you know what, hey, forgive me for being, you know, this way. I'm sorry that I did this. I'm sorry that I caused this wreckage in your life or whatever. But however, when you murder somebody, you don't get that chance anymore. That's it. So the only person you can really account for it with is obviously God. The only person that you can ask for that forgiveness with is obviously God. So, my gosh, it's just
right. And you know where that's concerned. I'm sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say that where that's concerned, I feel like, you know, Christopher, by God's law, should have received death for what he did, but man's law is what saved him. So really, he has like an extra, not well, kind of an extra forgiveness from the people, from the Ruzaks that didn't, you know, want him put to death. I know that right now there's not the death penalty in Colorado, but I think when he did that, there was. But regardless, God's law is that he would be put to death. And so man's law is what saved him. So I can't be friends with someone like that because I have hurt too badly for Shanann and those precious kids. And, you know, kids are our world. And how he could do that to his babies, I just don't understand. So
and I tell people that all the time too, Cheryl. I'm like, when you see Chris, like so many people will say, oh, well, Chris put on a facade, or oh, he was acting this way the whole time and had this mask on. Like I seen different accounts and different videos, and I never got to see him in a sense where he was like kind of like a off the rails type of father. So to me, it looked like he was a decent father when he was doing all that. Like and Shanann had countless videos of all the different Thrive things and all these things. They had countless videos of him showing, and you don't see those telltale signs of somebody who's like an abuser or somebody who's done, you know,
I don't think there was
bad things.
Signs.
And I don't either.
I think that he was a good dad.
I really don't. And I really don't believe that. I just look at it and I'm like, I don't see it. And that's why I'm so baffled, and why it confuses me so much is because when I look at that, I'm like, I see him for when he was a loving father. And it's like the only way that I can like think about it in my mind, how you can go complete 180 on it, is literally something had to have had taken place to take over a person. And he didn't seem like he was very more than just like NK being an involvement and things like that, because you can have an affair, you can do those different things, but that doesn't make for that. Because I mean, what could you do? You could walk away from the relationship or the marriage, do a divorce like a regular person. But when you go completely on the opposite end, like he 180'd, he murdered his entire family, and he did it in a very atrocious way, and even his unborn child too. So to me, like seeing that, like I'm like, there has to be a turning point of something. And the only thing I can come up with is that we hear the involvement that NK was into dark things. Didn't he even say from himself like that there's some things that he would take that was dark into his grave he wouldn't release because he doesn't want to talk about it? Yeah. So to me, that talks about some kind of darkness that there was there that we know of. And then the accounts of him forgetting different things and him not knowing, like you just see all those things. I know people might argue with me, but I really think that all the things that he did and was involved with at that moment in time is, I really think that he had some kind of demonic attachment or demonic. And I know people might argue with me, and that's okay, guys. This is my opinion. In my opinion, I can't see someone go from 0 to 60 like that. You know, like you just see him completely go off the charts. A loving father. Maybe he wasn't the best husband. I don't know. It didn't seem like there was too many accounts where he was a negative person. From even accounts from like different conversations and things, you would see you would see an account of, oh, Chris is at it again. Here he goes with this crap again. Like we've already been down this path like a million times. Like if you would have seen conversations like that come from Shanann, then it would point to that there were already problems in the marriage. He's already done bad things in this marriage. There's already like a darker side to Chris, but you don't see that in the conversations. So that still leads me to
his in-laws, even.
Yeah, it just leads me still back to believe to something taking place just like that. And I think that darkness got attached. And I've been there too, Cheryln, several times to that house. I'm telling you, there's something dark and evil at that house. So
I so want to go out there. I so want, because I'm kind of along the lines of, I don't want to say psychic. I call it discernment. You know, I can discern things and I can discern evilness when I feel it around me. And I would love to go to that house and just see what it makes me feel like. Because I can watch your videos of you at that house that night, and it sends chills up my spine just knowing, you know, looking at that house and knowing the things that you've seen. So, yeah, I agree with you. There's definitely something there, and I haven't even been there. But
yeah, and it's just a real feeling for anybody who's ever gone in the house. And I think there's several people within our group that have gone over to that house. And really? Susan, there was another lady that's Susan Bond, I think is her name. Sorry if I mess up the name. Oh, I went black there. But she even went there for the first time, and I watched her, and she didn't have very many people. And I think there's like 45 or 50 people in the chat. And she went to the house, and she looked like a ghost literally hit her. Like she was in like a surreal state of mind. She was very quiet, and she was just like, wow. And I don't think that people are really prepared. Like when they get there, they look on YouTube and they're like, that ain't that much. If you go there, but when you get there, it's a different feeling. When you get there and you're right face to face with it, and you're looking at the house and you know what took place there and you know what happened, it's like a surreal feeling just overcomes you. And it's not
Don't
good.
you think that people look at it as a ghostly thing, and more than a ghostly thing, it's a demonic thing? You know, I guess as Christians, we know that it's good or evil, you know, good or bad, God or Satan. And I think that people who don't understand maybe the demonic spirits, you know, maybe he wasn't demon possessed, but demon oppressed. Because there's a difference.
Yeah. There's a difference between demon oppressed and then demon possessed. Demon oppressed is, for those who don't know, demon oppressed, there's oppression. So a demon's job is solely to sit there and oppress things. What is it? What is oppress? You guys know what the word oppress means. So to oppress different things. Oh, I don't know why my screen's going all freaky on me right now. You see it?
It seems like every time we talk about this stuff, the stream.
It does. Does it not when we start talking about the demons portion of it? Yes. Does it not seem like every time, like my equipment, and I'm not kidding you guys, like when I start talking about demons and things, especially ones that are on a very tragic case, my equipment starts to go wonky. Like my laptop.
Because it happened on my show the day that you were on there. I got kicked off. I couldn't get back on, and we were talking about demons at that very moment.
And people don't believe that's true. It's like, okay. But that's what my job as a paranormal true crime investigator is. I try to gather as much evidence and much proof. One of the reasons that I always do it live, Cheryln, is because I want to make sure that everything that I'm seeing and I'm hearing is the same thing that everybody else is seeing and hearing at the same exact time. So there's no question, did I alter footage? Did I do this? Did I do that? No, you guys are hearing it at the same exact time that I do. And sometimes people even catch things when I'm there that I can't see, and I'll look on my in my chat and they're like, did you not just hear like that voice whisper? And I'll go over and like they were accurate. They're like, yeah, they were actually was some kind of different voice that was there. So it's really really interesting and fascinating. And I try to portray that to people too all the time. If they're
Mm. You're froze. I don't know. I suppose you realize that.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, isn't it unbelievable? Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I just hopped on. I'm on my cell phone right now. I'm on my iPhone 12, guys. So
Okay.
that is exactly what I'm talking about right there. Like, just all of a sudden
Yes.
it just shuts down. We're talking about the demons and all this evil, and people won't believe me, but like this happens more often than not when I start talking about all these different
Well, I
things.
believe it, but see, they have no power over us.
No, they don't.
So all they can do is try to disrupt us. They
They can
can't do anything.
disrupt us. They could be distracting. They can try to interfere with the thing, and that's why you see on so many different paranormal investigations, you notice that people say, "Oh, my battery was drained, and it just drained to die. I literally just put in new batteries in it." Yeah, well, that's one of the ways that they distract you. They take the energy, they use
Right.
it, and then they leave you with no batteries and things like. And regardless of what people say too, I am convinced that sometimes demons do not want to be um, put in like a light or a fashion, because
Oh,
I think sometimes one of their goals is they don't want to have you identify them, because why? If you can't prove their existence, if you're over there and you can't prove their existence, it leaves people in question. What's the afterlife? What's going on? See,
right.
you
And
didn't
if
have
you can't
anything.
call them out,
Yep.
then they get away with it. And also, they do the best in the dark. That's where they do their best work, is when
Yes,
they're
they
in the
do.
dark. So,
Yes, they do. Oh my goodness. I'm trying to get this back up and running on the back end portion of it too, so I can go for my MacBook Pro. But uh, I do not know what happened, but it just completely just kicked me off. And nope, no longer. You're not going to do this. So with that too, what is some of the most, if you were pointing people to your book, what's some of the most interesting parts to you? What's some of the most interesting parts that you went over, either that you discussed with Chris or that you had to write down? What was some of those wow
well,
moments?
Christopher and I talked a lot about demons and the darkness. And I was very torn between demon possession and demon oppression. And I think I have finally come to terms with demon oppression, because there's been no one in his life since the murders to cast the demons out of him. So either he's still living with demons in him, or he was oppressed instead of possessed.
Mhm.
So that was, well, we talked a lot about that type of thing, because in the beginning, see, when I first started talking to Christopher, it was only like 4 months after the murders. And so he still would say that he did not have clear memory of what had happened, that, things that he went through, he could get flashes of it, or he remembered bits and pieces, but he couldn't remember all of it. And, a lot of people don't believe that. A lot of people believe flat out he remembered it all. And if you look at psychology, they say that a traumatic experience like that doesn't give you amnesia. But again, if we go back to some darkness that was on him that controlled him, maybe, and I know he was given the drink, the devil's breath, it's called, uh, then that was meant to erase his memory. It was meant to cause havoc in his brain. And that's all done through satanic worship. So we talked a lot about those kind of things, because he would say that he was sincerely confused. Now, saying that, he still confessed everything that he did. and stuck by it through the entire time of writing the book. And even since then, he said a couple of days ago that what he told me in the book still stands. That's what happened. But I think the part that is really left out is who helped him with this. Because even though he did it, he didn't bring, someone brought the darkness to him.
Sorry, I'm trying to see. Okay. Okay. I think we're good to go. Sorry.
Okay. If someone brought the darkness to him, and we know that, and through rituals and other things that were going on, I think is how he got connected to that dark side, because he had a lot of dreams. He had a lot of weird things that happened to him that he didn't know how to explain. And so, yeah, in talking to him and watching his eyes go black, I know some people may think that's just, I'm making a big deal over that. But if you sit in front of, face to face, with someone that just annihilated his whole family, and as he tells you the story of what he did, his face changes. And in the change in his face, his eyes go black.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I don't even know how to tell you the feeling. I don't even know how to describe that feeling that it puts over you.
I do know. You know what's interesting too, Cheryln, is when I was on one of those investigations too, people said the same thing about my face morphing, and
yes,
that my eyes went black too.
Yes.
And if you don't know what demons do, demons will try to mimic, they'll try to mirror things and things like that. So that to me could have been potentially what happened to what you're speaking about Chris. Mm-hmm. There's many times that it mentioned Chris in there too, and other affiliations that he had. Another thing that was very interesting to me too, Cheryln, is demons have knowledge about things that we do not know about. Exactly. That's why I go and do these paranormal investigations, and sometimes we're going to catch some very interesting things. Now, when he originally had came out with the 35C, it was called Brady. It was with the Brady Law. And so I didn't know what it had came up on my tablet. But when I had done that, we were all sitting there trying to figure out and scratching our heads because it came up with the word Brady. And we're like, Brady. Was there a Brady that anybody knows that's involved with this? No. Nobody knew of any Brady. We're like, I don't know what that is. And that had happened one night prior to the next day. The very next day, that's when the news came out that he had filed that 35C.
Wow.
Isn't that interesting that it comes up on my tablet, it says Brady, and we can incorporate that, and we're like, oh, now we get it. Now we understand what it's saying.
That makes me wonder how much he is still influenced by those demons. Mm-hmm. If that kind of a thing. Absolutely. Because for him to do a 35C, he's got to change the story, to some extent.
Yeah.
He's got to come out with
something. It has to be something new. It has to be something new that hasn't already been brought to light.
Right.
And so, but that's like, I know sometimes people think, paranormal, it's all phony, it's hocus pocus, whatever, and that's okay. I'll respect people's opinions. But however, when we come up with evidence, we come with different things that show you. That's why I don't know if you saw the episode that I did, Demons Among Us.
Yes, Cheryln, I did.
I did the episode where it basically captured like all the major evidence that we've seen. And to me, if I was to look at that from an outsider's perspective and look at there and be like,
we're froze again.
it does not want me to talk about this demonic stuff this evening.
No, they don't. They don't want you to reveal.
That's a real thing. Whether people believe it or not, you guys are seeing firsthand here too that it knocks it out. And it's even, I've had it on my investigations too, Cheryln, where it knocks out even my iPhone that I have right now too. It's knocked out the signal the same way
Right.
before. So,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to let you guys stop me. I'm not going to let you stop me for putting out there. But with that Demons Among Us too, the one that I did was all of the evidence that it came about, and it's hard to argue some of the things that we captured in there to be as if it's.
I saw Shanann. I could see her in that in that live. Was it last week that you did that? And then there was Bella. I could totally see that, and it was just oh my goodness. But it wasn't them. That's what people need to realize. That wasn't them.
Not them. People think that it's them, that it's not. It's the demon that portrays them, because they could basically. What do they want to do? A demon wants to trick you. A demon wants you to think, oh well, Bella's left behind, or Cece's left behind, or Shanann's left behind, and I preach this all the time to everybody. Demons want to deceive you. What is the easiest way to deceive somebody is to get somebody that's familiar to them. So if you were seeing a Bella in the room and you're like, oh my gosh, poor Bella is stuck here because of the tragedy that happened to her. What's somebody who doesn't know about these things? What is their first instinct? Their first instinct is to try to figure out how they can help it. Oh, poor Bella, you're stuck here. How can I help you? Come into me and tell me. Yeah, come into me and tell me how I can help you. Well, now you just invited yourself to a demon. You've just basically told a demon, go ahead and enter my body. And that's what they want. They want to trick and deceive you so that they can attach to you. They want to attach to you. They want to wreak havoc. That's what their goal is.
And you know, that's why you said about my book, the one story, I don't know if you've gotten to that point yet, but the story about where I use the Bible scripture. And I know I always talk about this because to me, it's unbelievable to think about it, but it talks about when the demons dwell in a house and then it leaves, it comes back with, I think, 8 or 9 stronger than themselves and dwell in that house. And I can't help but to think of the Watts house, that's what's happened. Like you said before, a legion of demons are there. The house is not possessed by one demon. It is possessed by a legion of demons in that house.
And it's told us that too on the spirit box. It said legion. Like I asked, is there demons here? And it says legion. So it's very, it tells and says things like, so when it tells you. And the other thing that's interesting on the spirit box sessions too is, if nobody knows what a spirit box is, it basically flips through AM and FM frequencies at a high rate and very fast to try to pick up, and it tries to manipulate it so that it can take it in words and come up in an intelligent response. So if you ask a question, is there a demon here? And then the next response that you hear out of that spirit box is yes, or no, or go to hell, or it can come up with intelligent responses because it's able to manipulate those. Now, what I do find interesting is several times when I was at the Watts house, even it would call my name, call me by name, which is Mekcee, and it would call me. And my name is not going to be on any AM station. My name is not going to be on any FM station. So you're not going to find me on an AM or FM. So it means I'm manipulated enough to do that. And the same thing with Save Robbie too, because it called out Save Robbie. Robbie's a little bit more of a name, but it still called him out. It says Robbie. After he was asking about the NK thing, he said, "Is NK involved?" And it goes Robbie.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, the demons aren't dumb. They know more than we do, I'm sure. They just can't read our minds. And they don't like that. They don't like that they can't read our minds. So they try to put things into our mind.
Yeah, they do know our weaknesses, however. They know our weaknesses.
They do.
And sometimes they play off of it. And I think, unfortunately, Chris got that section of it. He played his weakness and coming off into there. So what are some of the recent conversations that you've had with Chris lately? What's some of these?
Several weeks ago, a couple of months ago, he had sent some emails, and they were brief, but they were asking me to get rid of KK. There was a few things that he said in those emails, but the most recent was to let everyone know that he was dropping everything. There was no further conversation than that. Just he was dropping everything. Lana, KK, his lawyers, the 35C, and he was hoping that people could leave his family alone, and he was going to try to start some sort of a healing process. And I think what he means by that, I really think he is so guilt-ridden that he's losing his mind. I really do believe that. He hasn't come across as remorseful, but when he starts doing things like this, I think you can see the guilt in a person. And then after that, I had some calls that I needed to make because I needed to know if there's some things that I could say. I had to call to the authorities about a question that I had. And one of the things that I found out is there's probably going to be an arrest this week coming up. And, I've talked on and off about there being an arrest. I knew there was another one coming. I've talked about on a couple other channels, but didn't know what was happening because, that was like January. I was told something, and now here it is March and nothing has happened yet. But I guess from what I'm told, there should be an arrest coming this week. And so now I'm wondering, well, is that why he's stepping back so that he doesn't have to be involved in that? But obviously the authorities would have already talked to him, I assume. But I think he is willing to give up more than what he gave me. I don't think it changes necessarily what he gave me, except that there was accomplices in the crime.
That's why I would absolutely love the opportunity to speak with Chris, because I have so many different questions and so many different things. And it's almost like who can get through to get like the absolute truth to him. Who could do that?
Well, I want him to talk to you because I feel like you can, man to man or man to whatever he is, that you can get through to him more than anybody else. And so I'm really trying to arrange that to happen. And I will tell you that he does much better through letters than he does talking or face to face. But hey, you can do a lot of things through letters. So
absolutely.
I'd really like to see him talk with you.
And I appreciate the opportunity too, Cheryln. So if at any point that he ever agrees to that, let me know and I'm on it, because I have a lot of different things to talk to him about. And it's not necessarily just about like obviously the story about what had happened, because I really want to know, like in the portion of his life, what really is interesting to me is that he talks about God and about forgiveness and these different things. And I think that's where I can zone in and be like, look, Chris, okay, yes, do I believe that that you can be forgiven for what you've done? Absolutely. But however, there's people that you've hurt in the wake of this that are waiting for the absolute truth. And God tells you that the truth is going to set you free too. So if you want the forgiveness that you are asking for, if you want those different things that you are asking for, then come forward. And for the sake of your relationship with God, for the sake of what has happened to the families, both not only on the Rusek side, but also on the side of his own parents, because I know that they have to go through struggles on a daily, because there's so much misplaced hate out there that it gets aimed at them, and they're like, this is your son, this is your fault too. And definitely. It's terrible because it's not their fault. Regardless, at the end of the day, Chris is a man. Chris is a grown adult who had a decision to make. He made his own decision. You can't blame his mommy or his daddy for this. He's a grown man. You make your own decisions. If you're a child and you're unknowledgeable about different things, that's a different circumstance and that's a different scenario. But however, when you're a man, you're a grown man like Chris is, you cannot sit there and place blame on his parents, regardless if they were the world's worst parents. I've seen some pretty crappy circumstances where people have had a very negative life, where they've either been molested, they've had a very dirty, being beaten every day of their life and different things. And there's some people that have turned that around. Why? Because of the choices that they've made. They made a choice and a decision to say, you know what? Did I have a crappy life? Absolutely, I had a crappy life. Did my life suck at the beginning of it? Yeah. But now what do? They turn it around. They say, I'm not going to be like that. I'm not going to be that person to sit there and dwell in my own agony and my own pain and all the things and the hurt that was tossed at me in my life. I'm going to turn around and I'm making it positive. So that's what you can do in your life, is you
help someone else with what you learned is what
you hope. And Chris has that opportunity. He can sit here and he can stop all this nonsense of everybody sitting here and coming up to all these different theories and, oh, this person was involved and this might have happened or this might have happened. Look how much division is caused in the true crime community. There's so much division that's caused from the true crime community because of, it almost seems like a circus that Chris Watts has done. He's done like the circus, and it's all like these little puppets. And it's like, okay, Chris, if you really are about that forgiveness, if you're really about Jesus, if you're really about getting with God, if you're really about those things, stop what you're doing and tell 100% the truth. Tell every single moment that you can account for, every single thing that you have. If there's anybody else involved, don't worry about the consequences or whatever. And if you are about that, then you should take those consequences upon yourself. I created this mess. So whatever comes about from this, about the 100% accurate truth, then that's what happens. But that's what I want him to do, is just, my big thing, Cheryln, is I want him to take accountability. Okay, man, like, we get it. You did what you did, and you're talking about you're with God and your forgiveness and things like that. Prove it to us. Prove it to us by showing and telling everything, the accounts of it, so we don't have to.
Truth. I totally agree with you.
100% the truth. 100% the truth.
But I think this is something, I don't know if you've read in the book yet, if you've gotten to the part that you read where when he was a young teenager, and how he would go into the bathroom and Cindy could hear him saying, forgive me, God, forgive me, forgive me, forgive me. Have you read that part of it?
I haven't got to that part of the book yet. That's interesting. I can't wait for that, though.
Yeah, and then she would ask him what it was that he did, that he needed forgiveness for, and he would never tell her. But so he was kind of guilt-ridden over things that he did from the time that he was a very young boy. And who knows what it was, did he go outside and kill a cat? Did he, you know what I mean? Who knows what it was? And maybe it was something not even bad, but in his mind, it was bad enough that he kept, asking God to forgive him. Yeah. So to me, it shows that something has played with his mind in that kind of of arena for a very long time. If he did that as a very young child, but this is not the same circumstances,
That could honestly be demon oppression too, like what you're talking about, like, oh, please forgive me, forgive me, forgive me. Because I've faced those different battles in my life too, because I'm not a perfect person. I've done a lot of things wrong in my life, a lot of things wrong. And, I'm grateful that God forgives me, because that's honestly, at the end of the day, that's the only person that I really truly need to forgive me. I will ask forgiveness from the other people that I've done something to, but at the end of the day, that's between me and God, honestly.
Or we're all saved by grace. We're not.
Yeah, and that's it. Like, a lot of people get that mistake, and they're like, "Well, you need forgiveness from this person, this person, this person." Should you tell them that you wronged them? Should you ask forgiveness and be like, I'm sorry, could you please forgive me for what I did? Absolutely, we should do that. However, at the end of the day, whose forgiveness matters most? Obviously, God. Obviously, God, because He's the one that matters. Your relationship with Him and God. So I get where he has those demons. And I felt like I've been attacked in the past when I was younger too, because when I would make a mistake, Cheryln, and I still battle with this to the day, when I make a mistake on something, I sit there and I hold it, and it's very hard for me myself. Like, I can ask everybody's forgiveness, and I've asked God forgiveness like a million different times, but I have a hard time, even myself sometimes, letting things go.
Oh, yes, definitely.
So when, and I'm sure that there's a lot of people out there that can account for that same thing. Like, when you've done something and you feel like it is so like messed up, you're like, I can't let this go. Everybody else might have forgiven you,
Right.
but you can't forgive yourself. So you're your own worst enemy. You're sitting there and you just replay it over and over and over and over and over. How can I be forgiven for what I did? How can I be forgiven? So when you say that to me, that really makes me think about when I've had a lot of those issues going on, and I still sometimes face that battle too about the forgiveness part. So I can understand and I can relate to where he's coming from, that portion. Like when you're talking about he was in the bathroom and asking for forgiveness. Oh, please forgive me, forgive me, forgive me. So it sounds like maybe that he has that problem too when he messes up. Maybe he does. But you can also see now in this day and time, it seems like he has a lack of empathy. Like there's some disconnect that he has that I cannot place on I just can't place it, but he has a disconnect that separates him from any empathy from anything that he's done. It's like somebody who was a loving parent and loving father, I would break down probably every day crying about, I would never be able to do honestly what he's done, but there's that portion where you just don't see him having, like you said, remorse for what he's done.
Yeah, I never saw anything, he never cried, in front of me, or there was never any emotion. But then I've wondered, and I know I had asked him actually if he had ever been diagnosed with Asperger's, because I have a nephew that has a form of Asperger's, and he is kind of disconnected a little bit with people and emotion. But different than what Christopher is, but it's there. And so he said, no, he had never been tested, and he didn't know. Other people had asked him or his mother if he could have had Asperger's. And I don't know. I don't know what would cause someone to be so cold. You could not have emotion over a lot of things in your life, but when it came to your own children,
yeah, that's
if
exactly
that doesn't bring out the emotion, nothing will ever bring it out. How he could have even done it to begin with, but to not cry every day or every time the subject would come up, I just can't even imagine, that you did that with your own hands, not even with a gun or, something else, but with his own hands is just unfathomable. It really is.
And we see this terminology always thrown around too, like narcissist, like, oh, Chris is a narcissist. And does he have some tendencies? Possibly. But also a narcissist, we got to remember that a narcissist is what? Me, 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 me. And like, I can't pinpoint like the part where he's always like me, 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 me. Like a narcissist is very me, me, me oriented. So, when you say that he doesn't want like sometimes some of this attention and stuff like that, so you said he's what, very quiet and reserved and kind of like keep to himself type of
quiet
thing.
He is.
And
Yeah,
I've known narcissists in my life, and they're not typically like that. They're not like, oh, hey, it's more like, hey, look at me, this is all about me, this is what I'm talking about, me.
But there is a broad spectrum of narcissism too.
There is, so there's other portions of it too, but the one that I think mostly identify would be with the me. Now I would love to have somebody like come down and like do like a psychology portion, like Chris actually being willing to do it, because I would love to dig into that brain and just figure out, man, what is going on inside of your brain, Chris? Like literally, what is going on inside of your brain? What has detached you from that empathy for having and knowing that you shoved your daughters in the oil tank? What is stopping you from the empathy for that Shanann was carrying your unborn child? Like, you say those things. I even say those and I get sick. I start to cringe right now. It makes me sick to think about it. It's like your unborn child, you murdered your wife with your unborn child and your two beautiful daughters. Like, oh, you say that and it never stops, like just making my stomach turn from just saying it. Even.
It just hurts your heart to think about it. And you think about the act out there that morning, and when he actually dug the grave and he just kind of kicked Shanann in the grave, or when he put the babies in the oil tank. What was his last thought? As he was doing that, and how could he be so separated from the reality of what he was doing?
That's the
unless it was
question, isn't it?
something very dark on him.
That's the
I don't know
question.
how else to
How
explain it. Of course, anytime someone murders someone, it's very dark. It's very
Oh, absolutely.
evil to do that. But yeah, this was beyond the normal murder or anything, you know.
And so I know that people are going to argue with this, Cheryln. Like, but I believe you believe that he was either demon oppressed or demon possessed, one of the two. I
Mhm.
can't tell the difference. Like, I can't tell with him. I honestly am telling you right now, I can't figure out. There was some kind of. I know there was demon involvement in it. I don't know as to what it was. Was it an oppression or was it a possession? And I can't tell you. But I can tell you that I know something dark and evil was amiss in this case. I know
Right.
there was. Like,
And I
nobody's
have
going
a
to
tendency to think more of oppression, honestly, just because of I've never been around a person that was demon possessed. I've heard stories from people who say they were. And I think a lot of times things do happen, like their voice changes or they act out certain things, you know, when they're demon possessed. Oppressed means kind of, I think of oppressed that it just kind of is controlling him. And I think that's kind of what happened. I think that, you know, the dreams that he had and some of those things could have been more from the demons trying to get to his mind, you know.
And
But
see, the
I'm
one part that confuses me on it, Cheryln, is this is the only one part that confuses me with his. Could it be demon possession or oppression? And the one part that confuses me with that is his lack of empathy, even to this current day. Like right
yeah,
now, what's going on?
right.
And that's what I'm saying. I honestly can't grasp because I'm trying to put those pieces together. I'm like, okay, man, like I know something was evil was there. Like you don't have to try to convince me of that because I've been to the house. I know I've captured enough different things. I've seen the look in your eye. I've seen the like duper's delight when you're sitting there talking about how I just want my family to come home. You see those different things. That
Mhm.
is not the case of a normal person. Something
Right,
else
right.
deeper, more evil is going on with somebody that sits there. And even per your account in the book too, what you were saying, Shaylin, is he couldn't even explain it. He's like, I was like that. Like I didn't even know that I was like that. I didn't even know that I had
Right.
like that.
Yeah, he said the picture of the how everybody talked about him on the porch that morning. He said
Mm-hmm.
he didn't remember being like that. I mean, I told him you basically you were laughing almost, you know, at talking about your family. And but see, that goes back a little bit, doesn't it, to I've always thought that demons would have to be cast out of someone. It's not just going to walk out of them, you know, it has to be cast out of them.
No, it will.
And he has no
That's what my
one.
understanding is too.
What's that?
As much of us as I studied that with the Bibles and different things, it's always talked about demons being cast out, not just
Right.
going out and walking out on their own and being like, okay, well, I guess my job here is done. I created my evil. You don't see that they just kind of go. But that's what I'm saying too. Because if he has some kind of demon possession versus oppression, then
Mm-hmm.
he's still in this current state. It would make account for it and why he has this lack of empathy towards
Yes.
the
Mm-hmm.
murder of his family. And
Right.
like it completely explain it. And that's where I say there's a big question mark. I'm like, my God, like you can't just go from 0 to 60 that quick, being a good father to murdering your entire family, stuffing them in an oil tank and doing all the things that he did. Dig grave and stick shit out in the grave and kill his own stuff. You can't go from that to that like
Right.
that.
And if
And
he
not
was
having
pretending, there would be some sign of that pretense. It wouldn't
prior
just
to
be, you
prior
know, you
to
couldn't hide it all the time. If something
Mhm.
would come out that you would be caught on it, you know, that you're acting out in some way. So I just, yeah, I agree with you. I don't know. That's where I get confused too, because that was makes me think, well, it is a possession instead of an obsession. But then the other things, I mean, there's no doubt that his house is possessed
Oh yeah, there's
by demons.
there's demon possession all over the place over that place.
Yeah,
I'm convinced of it
yeah,
too.
yeah.
And if you guys haven't seen the Demon Among Us video, please go watch it. If you're
Oh,
curious
it's so good.
about,
Yeah.
if you're curious about what was captured, we did like a freaking huge thing about, I think it was like 20 minutes long. And what has been so interesting to me, Cheryln, too, is if you look at other paranormal channels and things like that, if you watch other paranormal things, I swear to you that we have captured so much evidence on the Watts, and every single time that I've gone, there has been some like wow moments, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that just happened.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe that just happened.
That is unbelievable.
And you don't see that many different things, and like people going to like some of the most haunted places around the world, and you see them capture 2 or 3 EVPs maybe, and you know, and stuff like that. They like do, and they'll do like 8-hour, 9-hour sessions overnight too. We're talking about, most of the time that I go to the Watts house, we're talking about a 2-hour span. We're talking about a 2-hour span where I'll sit there for a 2-hour live, and I capture that amount of stuff in about a 2-hour live.
Wow.
To me, it's just like, wow, there's got to be something. Can you imagine getting inside of that home? My gosh.
I would go in there. Not by myself, but I would go in there, and I may come out pretty fast, but I would definitely go in there. But
if the walls could talk, that's what I always say. If these walls could talk, if those walls could talk about what happened, my gosh, and I think that's what kills us all, is just not knowing. And that's what, in case that they've had, that's been a tragedy like this, the not knowing portion of it just drives people to like the brink of insanity. And I've sat here, I've actually had to step away from this case several times, because I'm like, look, I'm getting way too wrapped up and way too involved in this. Like, I'm letting this affect me, like on like a personal level. Like, I'm.
And tell me when the last time is that's happened. This case has affected so many people on a personal level. It's unbelievable the kind of messages I get on a daily basis from people that are so affected by this case. What is the last case that you remember that people were affected to this degree?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of cases I've been interested in over the years. There's the O.J. Simpson, the John Benet Ramsey. You know, there's just on and on and on. There's been cases that we've been wrapped up in, but never like this one. Never.
Yeah, it's been ongoing. And I think that the huge part is because nothing adds up, Cheryln. Nothing adds up in this case. Like, you start to think about it rationally, like, and I think maybe that's a problem. Maybe we're trying to think too rationally about the case. Maybe we are thinking too rationally about it. We're like, there's others involved. There's others involvement. I mean, look at the different things that are pointing towards NK, or looking like he had to have had other help. Like, we start piecing all these different things together. How could have Chris had time to go dig the grave over at Survey 319, and had time to go do that, and then come back like nothing was wrong when he did in the morning? Like, we start doing the time specs on it.
Yes.
Things just don't add up, and we're just like, something that it just doesn't add up. And that's what is so gripping and so captivating. The same thing with the Elisa Lam case. Like, why were so many people interested in that? Because things didn't add up.
It didn't add up. Yeah.
Something is off. And when people know that something's off, when they know, same thing with Making a Murder. When you saw Making a Murder on there too, you know, it didn't add up. Not everything's pointing to Stephen Avery. What's going on here? And now look, it comes in waves. Like, that was a huge hot topic for a long time, and then boom, where are we at? We don't even hear about Stephen Avery and
no, because of Chris Watts. There's another Christopher in Dodge with Christopher Watts that I was watching on TV this afternoon. I've known about him. His name is Christopher Coleman, and he was. Do you know who Joyce Meyer is?
I do.
Yeah, he was her bodyguard. And he did almost the same thing to his family as Christopher did to his. Not put him in the batteries, but.
How did I not know about this? Oh my gosh, how did I not know about this? Cheryln, you're going to get me on another tangent over here.
Oh, yeah, this one's really interesting because he claims satanic forces. And he was a bodyguard of Joyce Meyer. He had a wife and 2 boys. He had an affair. He ended up killing his whole family one morning, and then he left for the health club and came back, and their bodies had been found. So look into that one. It's very, very interesting. It happened in Southern Illinois, but he is in Dodge with Christopher Watts. And life sentence,
Wow.
Same thing. So yeah, it's a real, but he claimed that it was demons that caused this in him.
Now I have to look into that case. Thanks a lot, Cheryln. And like I don't have enough to now I'm gonna look into this case. So to the people too, I know you guys, I apologize to those who have been donating to the channel and becoming members. Everybody that's became members, welcome to the family. I'm so happy to have you guys here. I've been having technical difficulties, and it always happens whenever we start talking about demons and things like that. So I had to switch to my phone, so it's very difficult for me to try to jump back and forth. So I saw that there was some good ones out there. I think it was Luann Hunter. Thank you so much for the donation. And there was another person too, Lyric. I think it was Lyric. Chris West is certainly contributed in many ways. Excellent conversation, Mekcee. So thank you guys. And I know that I think that there was other people too. I'm sorry I missed you guys. Don't think that I'm counting you out. It's just very difficult trying to do this with the phone.
Yeah.
And not on my laptop, which happens to be right here in front of my face. That doesn't want to seem to happen tonight with the demon conversation. So.
And it will probably work perfectly fine when we get off the live.
Oh yeah, but I'm telling you, when I have a normal live, when we're just talking about, when me and Save Robbie are just talking about normal things, this doesn't happen. But whenever we're talking about like very deep spiritual things and demons and things like that, my equipment starts to go wacky.
Yeah.
So, oh man. So God, like, there's so much that I wish I could just pick your brain about, and I know that we don't obviously have all the time in the world to do it. I'm trying to get as much as I can out of you, and I know we can have you on another time. I know you've been fantastic, and I know you're probably tired and you're busy with all these different things.
No, it's okay.
But I would like you to talk about a little bit more about your book as well too. And for those who don't know, I put in the description, and I'll have my mods send out the link and blast out the link. I started to read your book. I like it. I like the book. Other people might disagree, and they might say, "Oh, well, Cheryln this and Cheryln that." Look, like, I like the book, so I'm going to promote it, and I'm going to say, you know what? I like the book. I like the way it's written, and
Thank you.
I think it's great. So, with that, in the description, guys, in this video,
it was important to me.
You can get it. So. And that's what I think people often forget too, Cheryln, is you state, even in the beginning of this book, like, there's going to be people that disagree with you and dislike that you're involved in Chris Watson. There's going to be those people who are just going to be negative about it. We'll have to get just past that. But you can't argue that. You said even at the beginning, like, look, I'm taking into account what Chris Watts is telling me. Don't forget that this is Chris Watts that's telling me these different things. You're only taking the account. It's not like you're just sitting here and being like,
right,
you know, what am I going to do today? I'm just going to go think of some stuff and things like that. And just this and that. Like, look, these are the accounts from the letters and the conversations and different things that you've gotten. So
right.
I mean,
everything that you see in that book has come from his mouth.
Yep.
You know, there was nothing that didn't come from him. And that was my purpose from the very beginning, is to just get the truth out there. And silly me, I thought, at the time, just get the truth out there, and then this will put this to rest for people. We'll have the answers, and people will feel settled about it.
You have that at heart too. It sounds like you have that at heart too, because like you know about the Ruseks, and you're kind of stuck in the Ruseks and the Watts. Like, you're stuck in the middle of it. You're like, look, I'm not trying to piss either one of you off. And I feel like that sometimes too. Like, I feel like that. Like, I feel like I'm torn. Like, I'm like, look, I'm not trying to piss the Ruseks off. I'm not trying to piss the Watts off. Like, I'm just trying to get to the bottom, and I'm trying to get to the truth. What I do as a paranormal true crime investigator is I try to get to the bottom of the truth of what I can, to go out and figure out, was there an evil involved? Was there demons there? Yes, there's demons there. Okay, well, let's prove that there's demons there. Let's prove that. And that's what I do. And some people might not like how I go about it. Oh, you quit being disrespectful. It's not about being disrespectful. And to me, it's so interesting when people say that too, because it's like, why are you here in the first place? You're looking for these different avenues and these different things to cover the case. So you're not any less exempt than anybody else. Like, you're here out of curiosity as to what's
Yeah.
going on with the case. So why are you even here? If you're that much against it, then stop watching any true crime. Stop watching any movie like the Amityville or anything else that has anything to do with the real events that take place in life. We as people
Exactly.
are curious. We want to know what makes somebody do this. We are curious about, and the other thing is, a lot of us want justice, and we don't feel like the full justice has been served because we feel like there's others involved. So when there's
Right.
that, we feel like especially when you get so wrapped up and involved in the case, you feel like tied into it. You're like, you get offended. You're like, I want justice for Stan, Bella, and Cece and Nico. I want justice for them. Like,
exactly.
why are we not getting it? And so we take this very personally. And but the division that is caused, like, I'll preach this until like I can't preach anymore. The division that is caused, like, guys, it's like, what is our ultimate goal? We want justice for everybody, right? So work together. Don't work against each other. Stop hating on each other. Stop saying you're wrong and you're an idiot and you're this and this and that. Take everything with a grain of salt. Take people's opinion with a grain of salt. Like, if you don't respect their opinion, it's as simple as bloop, don't have to watch. Don't have to watch.
And the thing of it is had there been a trial, I'm sorry, my phone, I had to plug my phone in, so I'm like all over the place trying to get to plug in. If there had been a trial, people probably wouldn't be going through all this, because everything would have been brought out in a trial. And I think that's why a lot of people was hoping for the 35C, is because they thought then finally we're going to hear everything. But yeah, and that's not going to happen. We're not going to have the 35C. So hopefully,
which is honestly okay with me. Like, I don't know, people might say, oh, well, we wanted to hear what's it. Like, it's honestly okay with me, because it doesn't bring the circus back in town. It doesn't allow for all these other different conclusions and all these different theories and all these different, let's stir up these things. And I think that was what was frustrating to me too, as I'm like, Chris, why are you stirring up all this, man? It's like, you really, really want forgiveness. If you really want that in your heart, then just tell the truth. Don't play games with these 35Cs and trying to come here. Just take accountability for what you've done, regardless of if you physically killed them or not. You are just as guilty. You knew where they were. You knew where their bodies were. So nobody can argue with me that he's just as guilty as anybody else. He's where he belongs. He
was sentenced to life. It's not going to change his circumstances at all. Mm-hmm. So just tell the truth. And if you're trying to protect someone, why?
Yeah.
You know, why would you try to protect? And that would be another thing. I think God would work on his conscience.
I hope he does.
Has been forgiven. I do too. Yeah.
I hope he does, because I would love to see like him get to a point where he takes accountability for all of the things that he's done, where he looks everyone dead in the eye and says, you know what, guys, this is my fault. I'm sorry that I created such a mess. I'm sorry for the things that I've done. I'm sorry. Couldn't be any more sorry for what had happened to Shanann, Bella, Cece, and Nico. Guys, like, I truly feel remorse to it. I feel remorse to the Ruseks for everything that I've caused and all the pain, and them not having their daughter or their grandchildren around. I feel remorse and pain for even my family, his mom and his dad. I'm sorry for everything that I caused you guys too. I took away your grandchildren as well too, and and your daughter-in-law. I did this. This is me. Mm-hmm. And I hope one day, I hope one day we can get to that point, Cheryln. I hope one day we can get to that. And he says, I take accountability. I take accountability for everything. And now, let me tell you guys, so you guys can have peace of mind. Like, I'm going to say this one time, and this is it. This is the 100% accurate story and accountability for what happened. And then let it go. And then everybody can let the case go. Okay, we know it happened. It's done. It's over. And then if we still have people that can't walk away, well, then that's something deeper. That's something deeper. If you can't let it go after we figure out the 100% truth, then
that's a different demon.
Yeah, that's a different demon. We can't think that. Because you know that as people, there's sometimes some people that try to create a story out when there is none. So that
yeah,
happens.
yeah, definitely.
Well, I really hope, Cheryln, that you can reach to him, even if he doesn't agree to have me or communicate with me. I really hope. It sounds like you have good intentions and you have things. I really hope that maybe you can reach him and get him to a point where, obviously he comes into one day. It's tough because, like I said, he's the boy who cried wolf. Everybody's like, look, you're the big bad wolf, dude. You cried. So there's so many different lies spread around. We're having a hard time with it. But
Well, and like I said, I don't think I'm the one, really. I don't think I'm the one to do that anymore. But I have written him a letter, and I have told him a little bit about you. And I'm hoping that he will reach back out and say, yeah, let me have his information. I'd like to talk with him, because I really think you would be a really good one, because you do understand the dark side of all of it, the paranormal, the demonic stuff. And he needs someone that really has a good understanding to that can maybe help put the unrest in his mind that he goes through to rest, because he doesn't understand why, people can get mad at him and say a lot of things, but the bottom line is he doesn't really understand why. He knows that there was a darkness. He feels like there was demons, but he doesn't have any real explanation for them. And what we have to realize is, since he's been in the prison, we see everything out here. He doesn't.
yeah.
As we don't see everything that goes on in that prison. So I really think he could use the brotherly connection of someone that's willing to say, this is what it could be, and this is what you need to do now. And hopefully he could take that and use it to help other people, because the people that are in that prison in Dodge are not there for long term. Like 90% of the people that come into Dodge leave within 8 weeks. That is a place where they come in, they're evaluated, and then they're found a home, a different prison to go to stay. So he meets new people all the time through that process that they go through. And he told me back, when he was in the protective area, where at first they were afraid he was going to commit suicide, so he was on suicide watch. Then he was in an area where it was more for his protection, and he was with mainly handicapped men at that point, or people who were very ill, because it was right next to the infirmary. So he saw, people would come and go there, but they were handicapped. They weren't really dangerous towards him. And now he's in general population. So now it's a whole different story for him. He's with people that are murderers and have done some really horrible things. And, there could be a hit on him. We don't know. There could be someone just waiting for the right chance. So you'd like to see him get things settled in his soul before he does.
Yeah, and because we know that there is a code of conduct behind those prison walls, so we know they don't take kindly to people who do stuff to children.
No.
And so, yeah, I absolutely hope that. Like, do I wish ill upon Chris and things like that? No, I hope that he comes to terms one day, and I hope that he really does find God. He has made people angry, including myself, because I felt like so many games that he's played, and I just want the truth the same way that everybody else wants the truth. It's just like, okay, stop with the shenanigans and let's get to the truth. Let's get to the bottom of it. And especially with like him just trying to be closer to God and draw near and things like that.
Yeah.
I just really hope that he gets to a place where he can be like that. So
yeah. And can you imagine waking up every day, and one of the first things that would hit your mind as you wake up is, oh, I killed my whole family.
Oh yeah,
that would be in prison. I can't even imagine what that was like.
That'd be like your own little personal cell of hell in itself.
Yeah,
like
your own hell.
Living it over and over and over and over and over again.
Yep.
But he caused it, so I can't feel. I can't
feel too sorry. Yeah.
I don't feel sorry for him. Like you did this. Like it doesn't excuse. Like under no circumstances is there any excuse to kill your wife, your pregnant wife, your two beautiful daughters. It's just like I can't get past it. I just can't. So, oh well. I think we touched on a lot of different things, Cheryln, and I would love to have you on again when we can talk at another time and we could go over like more and more different things. Do you have anything else that you want to share to any of the viewers out there? Because I think we got 600 people in there right now. So is there anything
Yeah.
else you wanted to share?
I can't think of anything offhand. I know that later this year, summer or fall, my husband and I plan on coming out that direction. We're taking a kind of a big trip. We're going to go through the West and down from the West over to like Texas. And
Oh, okay. Yeah.
so anyway, when we come, we're going to be in Colorado. So I'm going to hit you and
Yes,
the
reach out.
Zob girl, because she said she'd go out there too.
Yeah,
I
reach
want to.
out.
I want to go
Please.
to the Watts house. I want to sit there with you with that that box, and I want to. I want to see what it is that you feel.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. It's gonna be an overwhelming. I want you to try to prepare yourself mentally. So when you do come out this direction, absolutely, please reach out, and more than happy to figure out what we could do to get that going. But yes, mentally, please prepare for it. Like
I'm sure. Yeah.
Especially when it's at nighttime and things, it's a very surreal feeling. You start hearing things talk to you. You start hearing those demons speak through that thing, and it's
I don't know how you went to Survey. I just don't know how you did that.
Yeah, and that was a crazy trip too, because the one that I went at 3:00 in the morning, I was by myself.
I saw that. That was with
AD,
wasn't it?
Yes, AD and St. Robbie. And I was by myself. There was nobody else for miles and miles. And I thought about this in my head. I'm like, if anything happens to me out here and I lose signal, there's,
nobody to find me.
Nobody to save me out here.
Oh my gosh. I don't know how you did that.
Do you have any plans of writing any other books? Do you is that something that's on your radar?
I'm just finishing up a romance novel, and I know that seems the complete polar opposite, but that book helped me to get through some of the other writing, I've been working on it for some time, but I am working on a book right now about Timothy Ray Jones, who is a man in North Carolina who murdered his 5 children. And he, again, talks about demons talking to him and telling him what to do. Now, he is a really different situation because his mother is schizophrenic, and he has self-diagnosed himself as schizophrenic, but doctors have said he's not schizophrenic. But he heard voices that told him to kill his children, and it was over something very minor. It was one child, not all 5 of them, but those voices told him, well, you did that one, now you got to do the rest of them. And he killed 5 of them, and he drove around for over a week with them in the back of his car, his SUV, and it was in the month of I don't know, August or September, and he drove from the Carolinas down into Mississippi. And you can imagine he would stop by Walmart stores and buy just like tons of air fresheners, and that's how they caught him. Is he got stopped for I want to say it was for a light that was out in the back of his SUV. He got stopped, and when the police officer walked up to the window, he could smell the horrible stench of death, and that's how they got him. But his story is unbelievable. The demonic that he lived in, being raised with a schizophrenic mother, a very mentally ill mother, and then just from there, just all the things that happened to him. It's a very interesting story, and he's very forthcoming. He's on death row, and he is seeking an appeal to take him off of death row. He says he knows he'll spend the rest of his life in prison. He accepts that. He just didn't want to be put to death. So again, that's,
that sounds like a very interesting one too. Yeah. And taking a turn there with the romance too. That should be interesting.
Well, yeah, that was to relieve my mind. When you write this stuff for hours and you just need a release from it,
You have to. I started reading this demonology book about Ed and Lorraine Warren, and I started reading some of this demonology book too. And it's like sometimes I have to take a step back because I'm like, I do this paranormal like on a consistent basis, and then coming home and then reading more about demonology, and then reading the Bible about the different demons and different things that are going on. Like it's like sometimes you fill your head with so much of this dark things. It's like you have to take a mental break, and you're like, I gotta step away from this. I can't get so wrapped. consumed. I'm like always one of those people that when I go forward, I'm like, I have to know more knowledge about it. I'm like, I gotta gain more knowledge. I want to know more knowledge. Even if I'm very knowledgeable about something, I'm like, I gotta know more. I gotta know more. I gotta know more.
I know, as much
That's
as you
one of
can
my
possibly
downfalls.
cram in your head. Yeah.
Oh shoot. I think I missed another one too. Christy Flanagan, thank you so much for the super sticker and donation. So much. That was very generous of you too. I'm sorry I missed you too. Remember, I'm trying to keep track of this all on my phone, and it's very difficult. It's way over there. The MacBook.
I'm sure we'll forgive you for that.
So thank you so much for everybody, and thank you, Cheryln, for coming on and talking
you're welcome.
about these things. And when you come up with different things, I would love to hear more about everything that you're doing, like your books, even the conversations with Chris Wells. I would love to have these conversations more and have you here another time too to discuss and get a little more in depth with it too. So
always,
if we could have some other panel members on too, I would love to have some panel members on. You're okay with that too?
Yeah, anytime, anyone. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, it was fun. It's always fun to talk with you. I'm so interested in your side of things that it's just it's really neat to me that you're brave enough to do this.
Yeah, it's at time. It's tough at times. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm sure it is.
Tough at times.
I'm sure it's very tough.
There's one that's coming up that I'm going to the Liska Axe Murder House. Have you ever heard of that place?
Which one?
The Liska Axe Murder.
No, you mean?
So it's in Iowa. It's a house that was in 1912.
You don't mean Lizzie Borden?
No, it's not Lizzie Borden one.
I couldn't hear the first name that you were saying.
Veliska Axe Murder.
Oh,
so
okay,
basically what had happened in 1912, somebody they had gained a few people that were suspects and things. Nobody had actually been charged for this, but they went in, and what they think had happened is they hid in the attic, and it was a family, mother and father with their 4 children, and then they had 2 the neighbors' kids sleep over too as well. They went through the house with an axe and murdered every single one of them. So I'm going to stay in that house. Yeah, it's terrible. It's a terrible, terrible, tragic story.
You're going to stay in the house?
I'm going to stay. I'm going to do an overnight investigation at that house. I already booked it. It's April 13th.
April 13th. Okay.
April 13th. I have it.
That's coming up
soon. But it's going to be an intense one. This will be the first really kind of creepy overnight investigation, aside from obviously the Watts and going to Survey 319 and things. But
you won't be by yourself, will you?
I will be.
Really? Oh my. Okay.
I was trying to get Saber Robbie to go. He's trying to get to go, but I don't know if he's going to get to go. My wife is going to tag along with me, and she's going to get another hotel to stay out because she obviously won't stay in there. But she'll be tagging along with me too as well.
Be nearby anyway. Wow.
But this is going to be a very, very intense investigation. I just learned too that they have 0 lights in the house, so you don't even have an option to turn a light on in the house.
Oh my!
So you have to bring
an oil lamp or something.
You have to bring a flashlight of your own. So there's no lights. If you want to turn on a light because you get freaked out, it's too bad for you. Too bad for you. You don't have an option to turn on a light. You better hope that your batteries don't go out on your little flashlight.
Wow. Now, will you go there during the day and then spend the night? Or
so I'm supposed to be there by 5 because they do a walkthrough and they tell you the entire story. There's a tour guide that goes through and tells the entire story about it.
Okay.
Which will obviously allow me to, after that point, set up all the equipment because I got a ton of new equipment and stuff like that. But I'm going to post all the night vision cameras around the place and try to get as many areas covered in order to do that. So it's going to be a very, very interesting investigation. I'll tell you.
Sounds very interesting, but I'll watch you from afar. Wow.
Yeah. Just you can watch with your lights on if you want to, Cheryln.
Yes, definitely.
There's some people that tell me that they're like, I watched your live from the Watts house and you were doing the spirit box session in the dark and it's at night, and I'm like, oh well, yeah, I can imagine some of the people's intense emotions that they have when that's going on. So
I came out of my chair that night that you were at the Watts house the last time. I told my husband, this is just giving me chills everywhere. They actually said Chris on the box. And
I couldn't believe it too. I just look at it. It's like, Chris, it's Chris on here.
What are the chances, unless it's real, right?
Yeah. That tells you, though, that tells you different things that are going on. So if you guys haven't out there too, if you guys haven't already, I have in the description, again, I have Cheryln's latest book out there on my description too. I think my oh my gosh, I think my wrenches, oh my gosh, my moderators, my lord, my moderators, I have my moderators blasting out there in the chat too. So guys, if you haven't already, I would strongly suggest you go get this book. It's out on, you could get, I saw it comes in hardcover or
hard, soft, and Kindle, and then the
Kindle.
Audio is coming out real soon.
Ooh,
the audio version that's almost done. And that's not my voice. It's an actual. They've actually hired an actor to do the voice, and I haven't heard it yet, but I can't wait. And the book is fairly inexpensive. It's either $11.99 or $12.99.
It's not bad at all. It's not
for
bad.
The soft copy, and I think was it $3 and something for the Kindle.
Yeah, $3.99. I think it was like
$3.99. Yeah.
Kindle
So
book.
I mean, it's inexpensive, but I think one thing that people will like is because it's got Christopher's actual handwriting, his actual letters from him in the back of the book, and so it does make it kind of interesting. People who like to look at people's handwritings and kind of pick it apart, if you know anything about it, it's kind of interesting. So
yeah, anyway. I would be interested if you're willing to, Cheryln. I would love to buy the hardcover copy of it too, and if I could have you even sign in there, that would be awesome if you're willing to.
Why don't I just send you one? I'll just send you one.
Well, absolutely. Just let me know whatever. I don't care. I don't have any problem with purchasing the book. So just let me do it. I would love to have that. I would love to have it on my little display here and just keep it up. So.
Send me your address and I've got some here. I'll mail one out to you.
Okay. I appreciate it. Well, thank you so much again for being on. We appreciate you coming on.
You're welcome.
You for all you've done. And I think really, truly, I appreciate what you've tried to do in trying to obtain the truth from Chris Watts. I mean, that's a very, very difficult task. I mean, that's a very tough cookie to try to bite off. But I think you've done the best to your abilities and what you can do. And I think you've captured a lot more to the truth of what we can get closest to the truth than a lot of any other people can say. So I know maybe not everybody agrees with, the way you're going about it, but you know what? We can't always look at the negative people and those different things. We're just trying to do what we feel is right. And I feel that you are trying to do what you feel is right too. So I'm very happy to have you on my channel. Thank you so much. You've been an awesome person, and I'm so glad that you decided to come on this channel too. So thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me. I enjoyed it. So
I appreciate it. Well, I hope you guys have a good night.
Thanks. You too.
And we will see everybody later, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for everybody who became new members of the channel. And thank you everybody for the donations. And we will see you guys again shortly. All right, guys. Take care.
Bye now.
Bye.